Hey everybody. Today I wanted to talk about a few things to consider when you're building a sleeper build. As far as getting your research done, a few things to look for, kind of a base plan, and all that good stuff. So I first wanted to talk about getting your research done. There are a few helpful places to do this. One good one is on Reddit on Sleeper Battle Stations. They've got a lot of interesting, not only builds but ideas to gather from, like building in this old Mac. Um, you know, I've seen microwaves, old, obviously old cases as well. But I think this is the one, like an old audio receiver, printers, just just about anything you could probably think of. Cases as well, to get ideas from, to see which ones will be easiest or harder, which ones um, that not necessarily are impossible, but definitely offer a more challenging build experience. So this is a really good thing to do, to pull from. I think that you would get a lot of valuable things, and just ask people um, questions, because they may have already built in this and just haven't posted anything. So just keep that in mind when you're looking uh, to do your first build. Now, with that, you may not necessarily need a case. You may already have one, like for instance with me, how I had the old family computer case. So, uh, in which that was a good thing, because I was able to uh, have it on hand and look at it and pull measurements and gather things. But you don't necessarily have to have that. Obviously, it makes it easier. But you can do a lot of different things by also pulling um, from, uh, like YouTube videos as well, like the one I posted on this one, for instance. And obviously, those models, there's like a 530, a 531. There's probably different builds just in that Inspiron 530 series that, are basically the exact same, that will help you as well. So pull from there. If you have any friends that happen to be doing it, you can use their knowledge. But just do a lot of research on that, and that will help you get um, get a good baseline on the before. The during is going to be a lot of trial and error unless you have a build guide, which there are a few depending on what you wanted to do, which is another discussion we'll have. Um, so the during was going to actually be a lot of, probably more so, of what you are capable of doing. And you don't have to go crazy on builds. You can do them quite simply by, the Dell Optiplex builds were big during the pandemic, where people would just throw, a GPU in it and call it a day. Um, that's super simple, that anybody can do it, especially people that are willing to step foot in this area. So yeah, just think about that as well, on your comfort level, on how you want to tackle and approach things, because it may not necessarily be a very challenging endeavor when you first think of it. And with that, you can also, plan your budget with your build. Um, some of these cases are getting quite expensive, especially when you start typing in vintage or even sleeper cases. They can get up pretty high um, on just a bare case. So keep that in mind when you're looking at cases. Just these old vintage cases, which obviously this one works. You don't necessarily need ones that work. Um, so just keep that in mind. Be as creative and imaginative as you want to be. There's a lot of interesting ideas that I've heard and gathered from other people. Like I've seen people where um, they'll build out AIOs, for instance, that one uh, on the sleeper battle stations. He had a in that audio receiver was his AIO, so it came out of his computer, into here. That's a really good idea. I've seen them where they put them under desk to cool these things, because cooling is mostly an issue with these. Think of it more like a micro or mini ITX case. You're very limited on airflow if you want to keep it as stock as looking. Um, so just keep that in mind. If you want to mod it crazy and you know uh, drill a giant hole in the very front of the case where it's just an open fan, by all means. I'm more happy that you're recycling uh, the case and doing something that you're proud of, that you've built by your own hands, than I am about the purity of having a true, sleeper. Uh, don't be afraid to do what you want to do. It's your case. It's your experiment. It's your journey. So just keep that in mind whenever you want to build these. That just do whatever you want. And also, I would implore you to post your builds, post your progress, make videos of it, whatever you need, because it really helps the next person out, and it gives everybody else ideas. Because I would have never thought initially about doing things like this, like running water cooling outside. There's a couple of other neat ideas that I've seen that I'm gonna do in the future, that I want to do in the future, um, that I'm going to experiment with. So just keep that in mind, because that's really interesting. It'll help everybody in this community. So let's really focus on helping everybody for that. Along with that, I would you know go with somewhat of a future proofing. Like, a lot of these don't have those backplate cutouts. If you wanted to change the cooler to, you know, air cooled to water cooled, for instance, or just a different cooler, if you want to upgrade the motherboard, um, things like that. Some of them even have M.2s on the back of the motherboard. You have to worry about clearance and whatnot, but uh, think of that as far as helping yourself future proof this case. Anything that you can do to um, help with yourself in the future, if you decide to sell it or pass it along to your kids or whatever, keep that in mind to make it a little easier on them by kind of doing it right the first time, I would say. Like, obviously, I didn't build mine for water cooling, but it's set up really well for air cooled. So that's still something that can be used. Now, obviously, I can't see the future. I mean, who knows? We might be, uh, uh, you know, dumping them in a like a mineral spirit, or not mineral spirits, mineral water cooling, which has been done. But who knows what the future will hold as far as cooling for these things? May something we do now may be obsolete, but again, that's kind of hard to tell. I would say air cooling, liquid cooling's been around for well over 20 years now. So let's and obviously air cooling's been around for basically since the beginning. But let's just keep that in mind when we're trying to future proof these for the next generation. When you're choosing a case, try to get one with as much pictures and research as you can. Um, have a good idea of what you're getting into, what you want to do, have a game plan. Where do you think you can do things? What's allowed, as far as what does the case really allow, or what are you going to have to do to get it to where you want, where you want it at, essentially. So, and don't be scared to do little things. So, like, these are some Dell Dimensions. Not sure the exact model on this, but some of these have these holes drilled out here that came from the factory like that. But don't be hesitant to put this in a build that you have. For instance, I've got one of these, I think a 2400, that I'm going to be implementing something like this about drilling some holes or slits into the side there, because it's a very minimally uh, change that honestly, unless you are aware of what these exact models look like, you can make it look like it came factory. And that's kind of what I like to do. Um, so use that. The cases, again, you can look at eBay, use your local things. eBay, Jawa's probably not a huge thing as far as your cases, but you might get lucky. eBay, OfferUp, Facebook Marketplace, electronic recycling places. Even just like, for instance, that Dell that I found was an elderly lady left it outside for the trash man to take up, and I went and asked her, and she said I could have it. So, just not necessarily dumpster dive, but there are ways to get things cheaply, free, and make use out of them. So I think that's a pretty good thing that we're able to afford by, helping not only yourself to learn a new skill, to pass something on, it helps the environment. I would also say once you get all of that, you need to plan what platform you want to choose if you're going with something that is not already like a pre-built or an OEM style Dell or HP, like a newer modern one, like an Optiplex or any of the kind of recent workstation builds that are out there. If that's what you want to go down, then by all means, I've modded the Dell Optiplexes. They're great little builds. They're cheap. You can get a lot of decent performance out of 1080p with them, and there's nothing wrong with that. Again, whatever budget that you're looking for, or what budget you want to tackle, go for it. Don't be scared that you're only rocking a Sandy Bridge i5 or something. That doesn't matter. Obviously, you can do a little better, upgrade as much as you can if you want to. If you don't, again, it's not a big deal. It's whatever you can afford or what you want to tackle. Completely okay. But once you do that, if you're building one, like what I've done was just a case and then built a platform on top inside of that case. Obviously, you want to do your research. I'm really liking AMD right now. Not only AM4, mainly for the RAM prices right now, but also AM5 obviously is what I built in. Intel, I would probably wait if you're building a new one until their new socket comes out. Even though I'm not a huge fan of building on a dead platform, but again, I'm building on AM4. It's such a robust and vast as far as processors and the price points that you want to get into. And even those are still really good. Not saying that Intel processors aren't. They are. Obviously some of the higher end 13th and 14th gens had some problems, but the Core Ultra seemed to be okay. But I do like to try to get efficient, and AMD definitely has stepped up their efficiency game. Even part of AM4, Core Ultra has gotten a little better. So I really like to focus on the efficiency aspect because we are limited so much on heat and confinement and airflow. So just keep that in mind. That's why I really like AM4 and AM5. I can't wait for the next Intel socket to come out because I really hope that we can get something in there. Even if we don't get a i9 processor built in there, getting an i5 or a very capable i7 which is another argument that we could go down as far as how many cores do you actually need for gaming, um, and what is good enough. Do you want to be on the bleeding edge of technology and have the absolute best? Well, you can. Obviously, that's more heat. Generally, the higher end processors are they can actually be really efficient, which is another thing that you can actually lock the CPUs to a certain frequency or power limit. But at that point, you're kind of overspending um, for a little gain. You can do it, absolutely. I would just probably go with the slightly lower clocked, less core heavy processors with that lower TDP to get into that form factor, the restrictive form factor that we're building in for the most part. Not to say that all of these cases, some of these cases are great airflow cases. I've seen a few that I was like, oh wow, to build in that and would really require minimal modification, and that's mainly just to fit the GPU or something in there. It wouldn't be really like hacking and sawing as far as adding airflow and whatnot in some of these cases. So, but again, that comes from your research. So what I'm looking for as far as what I'm building now is going to be a lot of AMD builds until the Core Ultra gets a little better on the new socket. I'm really avoiding that. I'm not opposed to Ryzen 9000, 7000, or 5000. So the first one I built, I built with the 9700X. The reason I chose this, I really like 8-core processors. I think that 8 cores are kind of like the go-to for future-proofing for a while. But don't be scared to get a 6-core. I think 6 cores are more than capable. I just feel like an 8-core would be a little bit safer as far as you don't have to worry about it for a few more years on top of what you're already getting with a modern 6-core. But I went with this as the highest one because it was basically the best 65 watt part that we could get. So this one was another one that I wanted because you don't necessarily need discrete graphics in these processors. Yes, it helps, but you're also looking at added heat power. It's not much, but it is a little bit, and obviously you can disable those in the BIOS. Like I could disable the one in the 9700X that I have. I just didn't. So the 9500F was the newest one with the 9700F on the 9000 series. They're pretty difficult to find right now, which I've never seen this one yet, but Hardware Unboxed just did a video on this one. So, but any of these really down here are fine for most of the cases. That's what I'm kind of looking at for most of them. You will absolutely have cases that can run the 9800X3D or higher in any of those old sleeper cases, especially if you're doing extremely heavy modifications. You can do that. So these are kind of like the processors that are generally safe down here, 9700X and below. The other ones you definitely need to plan a little bit more and be willing to either have a bigger case, a lot more airflow, or do a lot more modifications to get that airflow. I don't like the 8000 series for the most part. Again, you can, but like, you're limited on the L3 cache, but this is completely acceptable if that's what you can afford or want to get into. I would not advise it. So, but again, you can. Feel free to. I'm not going to judge you. You got to do what you got to do. Just if I'm going to recommend and I'm going to be building, I'm not going to be building with the 8000. Like obviously, you would probably do 9000 or 7000. So we'll talk about the 7000 because there's a few more options here, especially since they've been releasing some of these in different areas. So probably what you're going to want to do is look for anything with 32 megabytes of L3 cache for the most part. Like the 74 doesn't have it. 7400F probably doesn't have it. I think the 7500F, yes. So we're good on the 7500F as far as your L3 cache, which will help in gaming. So I would really focus from the 7500F basically all the way up. You could even go with the 7900. It shows it to be a 65 watt TDP. The other ones, you're kind of hit or miss. The 7800X3D tends to run a little warm. Again, it depends on what kind of pace you have, so keep that in mind. 7700X, I would probably avoid it because of the higher watt TDP. So the 7700 is another one that I actually really wanted to get. I wasn't able to get one at the time, so I kind of avoided that. The 7600X3D, it's kind of hard to find. I think it's a Micro Center exclusive. But if you can get it, still more than capable. 6 cores with X3D, which I assume the 9000 will be coming out with shortly. But we'll have to wait and see on that. 7600X, again, you're paying the price for this TDP. You could just get the 7600. It's very slightly less. It's basically the same situation. 7700X, 7700, 7600X, 7600. That they're very similar. You may as well get the lower TDP if you're worried about that affecting you. But the cheapest one on this list, I believe, is the 7500F. Which, spoiler alert, I do have one that I'll be using in another AM5 build in the future. So, like I said, I recommend this, and I will be using that in one of my builds for the future. The last one that I recommend as far as a newer build for right now is the Ryzen 5000 series. Again, you're looking for, I know the TDPs, they tend to change how they do them, but use this as a marker to determine, what you want to look at, and then just look for other things. TDP, and then from there go with the your L3 cache, because that does have a pretty good effect. Like a lot of people right now are building with the Ryzen 5 5500 because it's dirt cheap, and again, price to performance, it's kind of hard to beat because of that. But you're limited to 16 megabytes of L3 cache. Some games care a lot about it, some games not so much. But I think at this point, for the sake of longevity, and the X3D chips are becoming more and more popular, obviously programmers, developers are going to be focusing a little bit more on that as they become more popular. And I think Intel's probably going to be increasing their L3 cache in the future as well, because they've seen the success that AMD's had with it. So if you need to do it, I would personally probably stay away from it. But again, completely fine. After that, you just kind of go up here and look at what you want. It's 5600 here. Again, your 3200 or 32 megabytes of L3 cache. That's good. Just double check on all that. So what I'm personally choosing is, I went with another, spoiler alert, is the Ryzen 7 5700X. It's got a pretty good boost clock. It's got 8 cores, 32 megabytes, 65 watt TDP. I really like this one as basically kind of like it's not the end all on AM4. Obviously you have the 5800 X3D. Those things are really expensive. Um, sometimes they don't even really get affected that much as, uh, as far as the performance difference. Yes, there will be some in some games, but again, you're worrying about heat, the price. You're looking at probably quadruple over the 5700X, or at least triple, I would imagine, on prices. To me, it's not worth it. Um, there's kind of an outlying thing here. The reason I went with 5700X versus 5800X, again, you're talking like what, a 10, yeah, 100 megahertz boost clock and 400 megahertz on the base clock. Again, I went with it for heat. Not that much difference. You're probably talking at single digit performance difference. However, there is a 5800 XT, which normally would not be worthwhile. However, sometimes these are actually cheaper than the 5700X and the 5800X. If you can get it cheaper, I would say go ahead and pull the trigger. It's not, again, it's not that much on the boost clock. You're looking at literally 100 megahertz. But you can set the TDP down to 65 watt. If this is cheaper, go ahead and snag it. Because again, you can set it down, lower the TDP on it. After that, it just kind of depends. The 5600X3D, I'm not sure where this launched exactly. It may have been a Micro Center exclusive as well. Just look at all these. Intel, I don't mind the Core Ultra. I actually don't mind anything older than that as well. I really like the 9th and 10th gen processors, like the 10850X, HX or something, whatever it was. The 10 core was a really good price to performance one back in the day. I feel like Intel's been struggling their platform as far as, only basically having two processors per socket. I think that's going to change, and if it change, even three, I think even moving up to three processors per platform socket would be huge for them. They really need it, and I'm guessing the next one they're probably going to try for four. We'll have to see on that, but the Intel Core processors, Core i9s, that they're very power hungry. They've gotten better with the Core Ultras. I would probably stick with the Core Ultra 7s or 5s and just kind of look in here to see which ones what you want. The 245K is a good one. The 265K, also a good one. And that's probably about where I would stick around. And again, all this is dependent on you. It's just because it's a dead end platform, I try to avoid it, and the prices they're more reasonable now, but even compared to AM4, which is the budget one, I would not be. I really wouldn't be worrying about the Core Ultra. Plus, these are on DDR5, which, if you've been paying attention at all, DDR5 is crazy. Again, that's just another hit against it right now. So I would probably avoid that. You know, look for sales, keep an eye on things. Use your Newegg's, your Amazons, even your used markets. Don't be afraid to get things that are used. Obviously, you have buyer protection in a lot of these things, so take advantage of that. On the graphics cards, again, used versus new, what your budget is, all that dependent. I wanted to give a shout out to the Intel Arc V580. Their drivers have gotten a lot better. I was really close to pulling the trigger on a few of these, especially when some of their game bundles, had a few decent games with them during the sales over the holidays. This is still worthwhile. I think the B580 specifically with 12 gigs of VRAM. I think that going forward, 12 gigs, depending on the system you're building, is about the minimum. I don't Now, if you're sticking strictly at 1080p, older games, whatnot, absolutely they're fine. But if you're looking at, 1080p high refresh rate brand new games or 1440p, 12 gigs is really the minimum. 16 is where you're going to be wanting it. I think, there's a lot of talk about the B770 coming out with 16 gigs. Now that's going to be pretty good one to look out for. But as of right now, we're just going to have to wait and see on that one. But the B580, I've been happy or been impressed with the performance. I haven't used one personally, so, and it's still kind of iffy on Intel's, not necessarily stability, but like their track record. I hope that they stay in the game. They need to stay in the game. I'm glad that they went up to 1% market share, because that's still something in the graphics thing. Got a long way to go, but if they can keep doing these price to performance things, they will get more of the market share. And if they keep going with it, I think it's going to help. Radeon, I like, again, anything 12 gigs or up, depending obviously on your budget again. But I like the 9060 XT 16 gig. I thought it was a really good price to performance. Got plenty of memory. Will handle, obviously 1440p. Any of those 9060 XT 16 gig and up is good. 9070 XT. The 7000 series, it's so hard to get a good price on any of these, but if you can, again, I would look at the, you can find a 7700, which I don't think I've ever seen in the wild. The 7600 XT, I didn't think these had 16 gigs, but if you can get a 16 gig variant, that would be fine. 7700 XT with 12 gigs, kind of, here the minimum on that one. 6000 series, you're looking at the 6700 and above. 6700 has 10 gigs if you can get it for a really solid price. I think there's a 6700 GRE as well with 10 gigs, but that's like 1080p only, and the rest of them are just a little too low for the most part. So 6700 XT, probably look for a 6750 XT. They're not much different, just a little bit of boost clock, and the memory is running a little bit higher. But the thing with the 50s versions is they came out like a year later, so it's a year less use on them. So, which could be important, right? So even though there's not much difference, if the prices are the same, you may as well get the 50, because it's a little bit faster, but also it's at least a year newer, a year used less. So just keep that in mind. But from there on up, you're looking pretty good. On the NVIDIA side, I haven't really found too many that I like as far as price to performance for the budget end. I'm more focused on budget to mid-range. Obviously, NVIDIA has the best as far as 5090, but really the 9000 series for AMD really shook up the game so much in their mid-range that it's hard to justify if the prices aren't just really close. And then obviously the VRAM issue with a lot of the NVIDIA cards. So like the 40 series, it was so hard to justify any of them that didn't have, a good amount of VRAM. But like you're looking at VRAM, your 4060 Ti 16 gig, but you're just paying a premium over really the 9060 XT for the most part. Any of the 12 gigs or higher is okay, but again, they're just pretty expensive out there. I've tried to find one, even a 4060 Ti 16 gig was pretty high up there on the price. The same with the 50 series. as far as those prices. Now, it did for sales, they did come down quite a bit, which helped. But uh, yeah, it's a hard sell for me right now. I think they still need to come down a little bit more. Plus, I've been having issues with a lot of driver support lately, or driver stability, I should say. The only thing on the 30 series, I don't have them right now, but I will say the 3060 12 gig is still one of the best as far as your budget, low end, and 12 gigs of VRAM. Eventually, though, it is going to get caught up and start to outpace the VRAM, because just because you have the VRAM, you need the performance with it on the newer titles. So I still think that's a very valuable or viable option. I would look the 3060 12 gig. After that, whatever in the 30 series that you got a reasonable amount of VRAM. The 3080, even the 10 gig is still pretty reasonable. The 12 gig is better. So just keep that in mind as far as that. I would also look at your accessories and peripherals with these. Now, a lot of this will be tied in with your motherboard you're building on a new platform. Then you kind of get what you want when you're getting there. But if you're going with a pre-built or OEM or something like that, you're going to have to be aware of what the limitations are. It could be a limitation on NVMe or SATA drives. Could be also a limitation on your power supply, which is a lot of the problems with the older pre-builts and OEMs. But Wi-Fi, you can always put in for the most part, put in a Wi-Fi PCI Express card. Sometimes you may have to do a dongle. So just keep those things in mind as well. Given the state of the market, it is going to be a little more challenging depending on what you're looking for. I was lucky enough that whenever I wanted to start the YouTube channel and start building these for other people, that I was able to purchase a few of the things before the prices. Not all of them. I was able to get a few good deals before everything as far as your RAM, SSD pricing went crazy. So I do have a few builds already lined up. Like I said, I have two, black one and a white one this time, one AM4, one AM5. So that'll be, kind of the next videos will be coming out will be me building those. So, but I wanted to just kind of go over a lot of my thought process, a few places you might be able to look at as far as, um, retailers, a few ideas of different graphics cards and processors and, different places like that. So I hope this video was helpful for y'all. If you would, leave me a like and a comment. Tell me something that you're wanting to build or something ideas that you've had, and we'll discuss it from there. I appreciate it. Y'all have a good one.